Hello everyone and welcome to the National 4 and 5 Design and Manufacture online learning. What we're going to start off with is we're going to be looking at something called design factors. Design factors are specific points that a designer or engineer must consider when they are designing a new product or they are looking at improving an existing product. Now, why do you need to know about these? You need to know about these because you have to reference them in your folio because you will have to design something for your assignment at the end of the year. And if you're at National 5, you will have to be referencing these and answering exam questions about these in the final examinations. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to split these up into different factors, and in this presentation we'll look at two of them and then I'll get you to answer some questions on them. So the first thing we're going to look at is function. Now I think this is one of the easiest design factors to consider and to write about. Now if you look at this slide here, there is loads of different products that are operating and doing their own thing, right? That is what function is about, right? It's about what the product is designed to do, right? So if we look at this here, function is the purpose of a product or the job that it is intended to do. So if you're designing something, it must do something, otherwise what is the point in it? Now, I've highlighted two different things in the next part of the slide. Primary function, that is the most important part of function, right? That is what the product is designed to do. So there's a picture of a lawnmower here. So a lawnmower must be able to cut the grass. Or in the previous slide, there was a clock. A clock must be able to tell the time. Or there was a hoover. The hoover must be able to pick up dust or stuff on the carpet and the floors, right? That's what it must do. There is also something called secondary functions. These are things that are added onto the product to make it better and make it more desirable for the user, right? So if I go back to the lawnmower, they could say, well, the lawnmower might go back and pick up the grass. That's a great thing. That's an added on benefit. Or a clock might be able to light up, or the clock might be able to play music. These aren't things that it has to do. These secondary things are added on so that people will want to use it. Right? So that is the main difference between a primary function and a secondary function of what a product is. And you need to know the difference between the two of them. The next thing you need to know about function is something called fitness for purpose. Right? Fitness for purpose is a term that is often used to describe how well the product does its job that it's intended to do. So if we go back to that lawnmower, the lawnmower is intended for outdoor use, therefore the materials must be resistant to corrosion, rusting. The handles were made from mild steel in this case, which have then been dip coated in the powdered plastic, and that would protect that from the elements of being outdoors. The wheels are made from nylon, which are strong and durable, and they help the product be fit for purpose. Right? There's no point of the product being designed to do something if it's not able to do it in its environment. Right? That thing can't fall apart. It can't not be able to do what it's supposed to do. So that is what fitness for purpose is. And that's it. That's all you have to know about function, is what's it supposed to do, what else can it do, and is the thing actually fit to do it. Okay. The next thing we're going to look at is a bit bigger. It's called aesthetics. Right? Some of you may have heard of this before, but if you look at this picture here, this is one that I've shown my classes for a few years. This is a car, right? Now, the general reaction when I show people this is they go, oh, that's ugly, or oh, I don't like that. But when it comes to describing how it looks, if you want to get good marks, you have to go into a bit more detail, right? If you do think that is horrendous looking, right, you think that is an ugly product, you have to think about, well, why does it not look good, right? Is it the shape of it? Is it the colour of it? Is it the textures? Is it the proportion of the body against those tiny wee wheels. What is it about that which is not attractive? Right? Because the designer has designed this, and maybe aesthetics is not something that they've considered. So when you are designing something, you need to think of these things. How can I make this good looking? Is it the texture, the colours, the proportions, the size, whatever it is? So let's have a look at this in a bit more detail. So aesthetics, by definition, is the way that a product is perceived by our senses. It's the look, the taste, the smell, the tactile quality, which means feel, and the sound. Aesthetically pleasing is the term used to describe an attractive appearance. So for example, if you look at that lamp, you could write something like, the contrast of the crisp white lampshade against the polished chrome stand is aesthetically pleasing, because it's contrasting in a good way. Shape, form, proportion, colour, material, texture, they're all things which can be used to describe the physical appearance of something. Right? Something can be really good looking, but the colour's horrible. Something can be really good looking, but the material is just a bit off. Or something can be really good looking, but the texture's a bit off and strange as well. So these are just things that you can use to talk about a product in a positive way or a negative way. So let's look at these things that you can talk about. So we're going to reference hair dryers to describe this. So the very first one we're going to talk about is that one on the top right, that black Babyliss Pro hairdryer. So shape and form, right? So the 2D shape or 3D form in the product must be attractive to the eye. The hairdryer has a stereotypical form. It's comprised of a comfortably shaped handle, a cylindrical housing for the fan, and a tapered section for the heating element in the nozzle. Right? So in terms of its shape, it's quite standard, it's quite generic. The second one we're going to look at is the pink Babyliss Pro hairdryer down the bottom left hand corner. So we're going to be looking at colour. So colour is usually the first detail that catches the eye in a product, and it can bring a product to life. So colour choice often comes down to personal preference, as colours affect people in different ways. Right? Not everyone likes the same colours. 9 out of 10 people in a room might love the colour green, and one person just doesn't like the colour green. That's fine, that's personal preference. However, there are colour stereotypes also used in design. Right? This pink hairdryer would have stereotypically been aimed at a younger woman. Right? Pink's considered feminine, youthful, calm, delicate, bright. Therefore, that's probably why that colour was chosen for that particular product. Right? And colour can make the difference to a product looking good or looking bad, looking bold on a shelf or blending into the background. So you have to think about the colour that's been chosen for a product. Next one, material. Right? Materials have unique colours, textures, patterns and qualities. This hairdryer on the top right has a rose gold chrome metal finish, and this gives the product a very shiny appearance and gives the impression that the hairdryer is luxurious and expensive. Right? If you think about materials, you get different looks from different materials, different woods, different plastics, different metals, and therefore these products can look expensive, they can look cheap, they can look modern, they can look old-fashioned. It depends what material you have chosen will give it its aesthetic quality. Right, so you could talk about the materials. The fourth one, you could talk about the texture. So on the bottom right, we've got that kind of reddish black Ego hairdryer. So the texture of a product describes the surface qualities of a material. We may be drawn to particular textures, whether they're soft, they're smooth, they're rough, they're cold. This hairdryer here has a matte rubber texture applied to the external casing, and that provides the grip to the product as well as giving it a soft and smooth texture. Right, so it looks quite smooth and quite elegant because of that texture. It doesn't look rough, it doesn't look uninviting. These are other things you can talk about in terms of aesthetic quality. Last one, we'll look at proportion. right? So proportion is to do with the scale and the size of a product, or the parts of a product in relation to each other. Designers can choose to create balance, whether to contrast stuff, make them symmetrical, or make them asymmetrical in terms of how they look. So if we look at the first hairdryer, which is the one on the right hand side, that long black one, that hairdryer there has a long, thin nozzle and handle. The fan housing is large and disproportionate to the rest of the product, which makes it look heavy towards the back. Right, so in terms of proportions there, the proportions are very off. It looks quite weighted at the back, quite thick, and then the front of it's kind of long and skinny, so it does contrast a little bit. Right? Whereas if you look at the bottom one, which is the kind of red-black one, the hairdryer short, it's stubby, it's got a long hand and a large circumferenced head at the front, the top of the dryer. Therefore it looks compact, small, yet it's robust enough to make it fit for purpose. Right? So in terms of proportion, does that affect the way that it looks? And if you think back to that picture of the car I put up a second ago, one of the reasons that it didn't look aesthetically pleasing to the eye was it had tiny, tiny wheels as opposed to the larger yellow body. Right? So even if they upped the size of the wheels, it probably would have looked a bit more aesthetically pleasing. So, thinking of these two design factors, right, how can you use them in an exam? So, what we've got here is we've got a question which I think is from the 2015 exam paper. It's saying that aesthetics is an important factor in the design of the wireless headphones shown below. A, B and C, 3 different types of headphones. What you're asked to do is describe the aesthetic qualities of the headphones. You may wish to refer to one of them, 2 of them, or all of them if you want to. Right, so this exam question here is very typical of what they'll ask you. They'll give you a product that is quite easy to understand because you'll know how to work it and you'll know what it does, and they'll ask you questions about that particular product. They don't want you to talk about what aesthetics is, they need you to reference that product, otherwise you won't get any marks. So, if you look at any of those headphones, you want to start to talk about how they look. Right? So starting to look at maybe their shape, their proportions, their colours, their textures, any of the things we've just talked about. Right? These are what some of the things that you could write down. So headphones A have a simplistic colour scheme. They do. Headphones A have a square, slim shape, which makes them look modern. They do. Headphones A look like they are smooth. They've kind of got a matte texture. Headphones B have a bold blue colour scheme. Headphones B have a large ear section, which contrasts with the thinner head section. Headphone C, the red and silver colours contrast. Headphone C, the materials look shiny and modern. Right? This is worth 3 marks, so you'd be looking to talk about 3 individual points, right, over those 3 products if you want to, and that would get you marks. Right? Those are just some of the things that you could write to answer the questions there. Right? What you can't do is just write headphones A look old-fashioned, right? Because they need to know what about it looks old-fashioned. Is it the colours? Is it the texture? What is it? Or headphone C looks ugly, right? That's not an answer. Right? That you'd have to describe what is not aesthetically pleasing about it, right? And that's it. That's how you get the marks, right? So part C to this same question was asking you to state 2 functional benefits of wireless headphones, right? So they've asked it not what the headphones do, but thinking of benefits of them. So if they are wireless, a functional benefit is that you can listen to music without having to be tethered to a device. You can move around, you can move your head, you can move your arms, you're not going to get tangled up in a wire. Right? That's one functional benefit. You can actually listen to the music without having to be tied up to it. One other thing you could write would be that when you're using it, it's much easier for them to be put away. Right? You can fold them away easily. It looks like quite a few of them fold. You don't have to worry about wrapping the wire around it to put it away. Right? Functionally, these are going to be easier to use and to navigate. Okay, how can you use them in your design folio? Right, so you have to design something at the end of this year. You have to put all this down into your folio as evidence. So here's a product here, right? If I've just sketched that product, right now, nobody knows what it is, right? You don't know what it is. So what I've designed here is a pencil holder, right? Now, you don't know what that's made from. You don't know how big it is. You don't know where the inspiration came from. You don't know how long it's going to take to make. You know nothing about this at the moment. And what you need to do is annotate your design to help explain what's going on, right? And it is good to explain the function. So where will the pencils go? Even though it's quite straightforward in this particular design, it helps to write that stuff down and aesthetically to describe why it looks that way. Now, you don't have to talk about everything. You don't have to put in the proportions, the size, the colours. Even just one little comment will prove to a marker that you have an understanding of what you're doing here, right? So, for example, these are all things that you could write. There are more things you could write as well, but just looking at two of these examples, the colours, right? Why have I chosen the colour orange? What does the colour orange bring to that design? Is it for a certain user? Is it to make it stand out on the shelf? Is it to tie in with the colours in my bedroom where it's going to be kept? Why is it that colour? Right? Why have you chosen that colour aesthetically? Other things you could talk about. What is the purpose of the product? Right? So where do the pencils go? Right? And how does it actually achieve what you intended for it to do? Right? And that's it. So you can just annotate to explain these factors in that process. Right, so what I'm going to get you to do is we're going to try some exam style questions based on those two factors. So uploaded to Microsoft Teams Show My Homework is a PDF. Right? It's called Sheet 1 Design Factors, Function and Aesthetics. So if you can answer those questions, you can either type up your answers and email them to your teacher. You can write down the stuff onto a bit of paper, take a picture of it with your phone, upload that picture to Show My Homework, or do the same but send that in an email to your teacher. Either way, that means we can have a look at your responses and see how you're getting on with answering these questions. I'll just have a quick look at them just now. They are... Where did I put them? Okay, so here are the questions here, right? So question 1, you're going to be asked to talk about the function and the aesthetics for a smart wristband. So something that kind of monitors your exercise goals as well as the time, if you look at the picture. Question 2, you're going to be talking about a portable speaker, and in there you're going to describe 3 aesthetic qualities. Right? Remember what we've just talked about, rewind the video if you forget 3 different things you can talk about, and state a secondary function of what that speaker could do. And question 3, we're going to be doing a function question again. We're going to look at 2 different types of backpacks. Right? The first one here, you've got a hill walker's backpack. Right? Why would it be designed for them? Sorry, in what way would that have been designed for them? And the second one, the children's backpack, in what way functionally has that been designed for them? Right? These questions are mostly described, except from this one here, state. So you're going to have to put these in sentences to get those explanations across. There's 11 marks. Good luck.